It wasn't built to be beautiful. It wasn't built for tourists. It wasn't built for drone shots or postcards or Instagram captions. The Great Wall of China was born from one thing and one thing only: fear. Before these stones, one question has always haunted history. What drives an empire to build a wall thousands of miles long? How many lives are you willing to sacrifice just to keep an enemy at a distance? Can a wall, any wall, actually stop an invasion? Or does it just become the scar of something much, much bigger? We call it the Great Wall of China. But that name, it doesn't come close to telling the real story. It doesn't tell you about the hands that built it. It doesn't tell you about the bodies that never came home. It doesn't tell you about the freezing nights, the fires, the betrayals, or the emperors who lay awake terrified of the darkness beyond the horizon. Welcome to Hidden Story Hub. And this is the story they don't put on the postcards. Before this wall existed, there were two worlds sitting right next to each other. On one side, cultivated fields, villages, roads, cities, lives moving at a slow and steady pace. On the other side, emptiness, endless steppes stretching into the horizon. And out there, horsemen swift as storms. People who appeared out of nowhere, took everything, and vanished back into the wilderness before any army could even mount a response. They left behind only smoke and fear. For centuries, this was just life in northern China. Sudden raids, villages burned to the ground, crops stolen overnight. Emperors came and went, dynasties rose and collapsed. But that terror of seeing a sea of horses and spears appear on the horizon at any given moment never went away. It was like a nightmare nobody could wake up from. The first response wasn't one great wall. It was many small, desperate ones. Walls of packed earth, wooden palisades thrown up in a hurry, isolated forts. Each generation built their piece, each king convinced that he would finally be the one to stop the threat. Nobody truly did. Then came the moment when fear stopped being just a feeling and became a project. A man rose to power with a singular obsession: to unify everything. Laws, roads, weights, measures, and the walls. The emperor, remembered by history as the very first to sit on a throne called China, looked north and saw only one thing: a border full of holes. And he decided those holes had to disappear permanently. From that moment, the wall stopped being a patchwork of random barriers. It began transforming into a single living creature, a line that had to cross mountains, deserts, rivers, and valleys. Not separate walls anymore, one body, one serpent of stone, brick, and watchtowers stretching across the entire northern frontier. But to bring that serpent to life, the empire demanded something brutal in return. Men were pulled from their farms, farmers who had never left their villages, prisoners sent up in chains, soldiers, craftsmen. They were pushed north like a river of human beings, and none of them knew if they would ever come back. Many didn't. Frozen mountain winters, scorching desert summers, food running short, no medical care. Historians believe hundreds of thousands of people died during this era of construction alone. There's a legend, Lady Meng Jiang, whose husband was taken to build the wall and never returned. She wept so hard standing at the wall that an entire section crumbled, and her husband's bones were found buried inside. That legend exists because it wasn't far from the truth. Workers who died in remote sections were sometimes just built right into the structure. Moving bodies was expensive. The wall couldn't wait. Here's something most people don't think about. For the people who designed it, the wall was never just about keeping enemies out. A wall this size, this long, also controls what happens on the inside. It regulates who passes through, what goods move across the border, where people can and cannot go. It is a constant, physical reminder that the emperor can bend mountains. And if he can bend mountains, he can bend you too. Watchtowers rose at regular intervals along the entire route. Inside each one lived a small garrison of soldiers, men who spent months, sometimes years, completely isolated from the rest of the world. They slept on hard planks, ate plain rice, endured brutal cold and total silence. Their only job was to observe, watch the sky, watch the plains for the first cloud of dust raised by distant horses, watch the smoke signals traveling down the line. Because the wall wasn't just stone, it was a communications network. Fires lit at signal points could carry a message across hundreds of miles in minutes. One fire meant a sighting. 2 fires, serious danger. 3 fires, a full-scale threat incoming. A chain of lights moving through the darkness, connecting mountains and valleys, allowing the empire to react before the enemy even reached the first city. Now let's talk about how they actually built this thing, because there were no machines, no cranes, no trucks, no roads even leading to most of the construction sites. Stone blocks were dragged by hand, pushed up steep slopes, loaded into baskets, and carried on shoulders. Workers formed human chains, passing weight back to back up the mountain. Those who fell got back up and kept going because stopping meant being replaced and forgotten. The materials changed depending on where you were building. In the eastern mountain sections, workers quarried granite and fired brick locally. In the western desert sections, they used rammed earth, compressed layers of dirt, gravel, and reeds, because stone wasn't available for miles in any direction. And here's the detail that genuinely broke my brain. Archaeologists found that the Ming dynasty used sticky rice mortar to bind bricks together in key sections. Farmers across the entire empire were taxed in rice specifically to supply this construction, and it worked so well that modern weeds literally cannot break through it. The mortar tested stronger than the bricks themselves. Sticky rice, outlasting stone for over 500 years. So after all of that, after all the lives, the centuries, the billions of bricks, did the wall actually do its job? The honest answer is, it's complicated. It absolutely slowed down raids. Small invading parties couldn't just ride straight through anymore. The watchtower system gave defenders enough warning to move troops where they needed to be. For certain threats, at certain times in history, it worked exactly as intended. But here's what nobody likes to talk about. Genghis Khan and the Mongols didn't dramatically break through the wall in some legendary battle. They just found the gates and got someone on the inside to open them. Through bribery, through political deals, through betrayal, Mongol forces walked through unlocked doors in 1211 AD and poured into China not by destroying the wall, but by outplaying the people defending it. The wall couldn't stop a traitor. And after that, the Mongols ruled China for nearly 100 years. The wall built to keep them out ended up protecting their power too. The wall was always, only, as strong as the people standing on it. Today, the Great Wall pulls in over 10 million tourists every single year. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, one of the most recognized landmarks on the planet. But over 30% of the Ming Dynasty wall is already gone. Not from war, not from earthquakes, but from time, neglect, and centuries of locals pulling bricks to build their own homes and roads. Whole villages were built out of Great Wall stone. People did what they had to do, and the wall paid the price. There are sections deep in the mountains today that look nothing like the polished tourist sites. Just fallen stones, half-collapsed towers, and grass slowly swallowing everything. Nature reclaiming what millions of human beings built over 2,000 years, one crack at a time. And that phrase you've probably heard 100 times. You can see the Great Wall from space? Not true. The wall is only about 15 to 30 feet wide, far too thin to see from orbit with the naked eye. Chinese astronaut Yang Liwei specifically looked for it during his 2003 mission and said he couldn't find it. NASA confirmed the same. The most famous fact about this wall is completely made up. The real wonder isn't visible from space. It's visible right here, on the ground, if you actually stop to look. The Great Wall of China isn't just a military structure or a historical landmark. It's a monument to human desperation, to what people build when they're terrified, to what empires demand when they need to feel untouchable. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives building this, most of them without a choice, without recognition, without so much as a name written down anywhere. And after all of that sacrifice, the wall was bypassed, betrayed, outlasted by the very peoples it was meant to stop. But 2,000 years later, it's still standing. Through earthquakes, through wars, through the fall of every single dynasty that ever put a stone in it, the wall survived all of them. Maybe that's the real story. You can't build a wall tall enough to stop history, but you can build something that outlasts every king and every empire and every fear that created it. The Great Wall isn't China's greatest military achievement. It's China's greatest scar, and it is still there. If you ever see it in person one day, stop. Put your phone down for just 1 second. Look at the wall disappearing into the hills. Because under every single stone is the weight of a life that history never wrote down. This is Hidden Story Hub, where every place becomes a story worth telling. If this one hit different, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And drop it in the comments. Do you think the Great Wall was worth it? All those lives, all those centuries, was it worth it? I genuinely want to know what you think. See you in the next Hidden Story.